John Yoo is a former Deputy Assistant to U.S. Attorney General. He joins me now. Thank you very much for talking to us.
No, my pleasure.
A good portion of Monday's 5-hour grilling included Congressman Trey Gowdy of South Carolina. He tried to connect the dots between the former President Obama, his knowledge of any possible national security breach by Hillary Clinton as then Secretary of State. And here's the key: whether or not the FBI actually kept the former president abreast of any investigations they had going on at the time. What is your take on that and the president's knowledge?
It's a good question, and it's a really interesting part of the transcript of the Comey hearings that really hasn't been covered that much by the media. Congressman Gowdy really, I think, got into the nitty-gritty of why did President Obama go on national TV and declare that Hillary Clinton had not violated national security laws by keeping classified information on an easily hacked server before any briefings by the FBI? Why did Comey authorize the interview of Michael Flynn and try to encourage there to be no lawyers, try to make it sound like it wasn't even an interview, when at the same time, when the FBI interviewed Hillary Clinton about her emails and classified information, they allowed actual potential witnesses to that possible breaking of the law to serve as her lawyers and to sit in a very heavily lawyered up setting and to give her, as you said, quite favorable treatment compared to Michael Flynn.
I want to talk more about that 60 Minutes interview. That was in 2015. And, you know, with regard to the former president's knowledge of the investigation, Gowdy asked Comey about that interview in which Obama said that former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton merely, and this is a quote in the interview, made a mistake and didn't mean any harm in the leak of her emails. Gowdy then asked Comey, did you address that with him personally? Comey said he did not. Your take?
Well, first, one of the interesting things is, yes, President Obama went on the air. He is the president. He is the chief law enforcement officer for the nation, and declared Hillary Clinton essentially innocent before the investigations had been completed. Second, then, where did President Obama get that information from? And so Congressman Gowdy and some of his other Republican colleagues were pressing on, was Loretta Lynch or other Justice Department officials involved in somehow getting word to President Obama? And then third, Congressman Gowdy reminded anyone who's reading the transcript that President Obama had actually been sending emails back and forth with Hillary Clinton on their private email accounts, which would suggest he knew already that there had been some kind of open, unclassified server available to Hillary Clinton that might have had classified information on.
Right. Okay. You know, part of the grilling was also obviously about the Michael Flynn interview and the fact that he lied to the FBI. I spoke with Congressman Andy Biggs in our first hour about Comey breaking protocol for that interview. Listen to what he had to say.
Here you have a guy who's admitted that he's lied. He admits that he sent people in violating FBI protocols to interview Mr. Flynn. He didn't call the White House counsel. He admits all of these violations that were going on. He admits FISA warrants being issued. And you know what? So we're trying to adhere to the rule of law, and he's pushing back on that.
Pushing back. So then why is Comey pushing back on not following protocol when he admits he broke protocol by not clearing the Flynn interview with the White House before sending agents in personally?
The interesting thing about the transcripts is they show that the Flynn interview and the way the FBI went about it by making him think that it wasn't a criminal investigation, encouraging him not to have any lawyers present, and, as Mr. Comey said, getting away with evading the normal protocols for the FBI, sending people to interview White House. That was actually the end of a train of a long series of decisions. And what Congressman Gowdy was trying to get at was, when did you decide to conduct an investigation of an ongoing presidential campaign? That used to be off limits for the FBI. That's a lesson we should have learned from the Nixon and the Watergate controversy.
All right, John Yoo, thank you very much. Great to see you.
New tonight, former FBI Director James Comey, fresh off his closed-door testimony in the House Intelligence Committee. Pretty unbelievable testimony. We're going to get to that. He claimed that President Trump and the GOP have done irreparable damage to the FBI with their criticism of the agency. So apparently, holier than thou, James Comey is once again without any kind of burden, right, from the current reputation of the FBI. The man's conscience is apparently totally, utterly clear. But, you know, a few former FBI agents beg to differ, going as far as to say that James Comey himself has done more to damage the FBI than the president could ever do. He continues to dig himself into a deeper and deeper hole with every public appearance and every partisan comment. His legacy as FBI director is forever tarnished, and in his ability to save face for his mistakes, he may be taking the entire agency down with him. That is the feeling of some of his former colleagues. Joining me right now is former FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon. Good to have you here, Bobby. What do you think of how James Comey has conducted himself?
Well, I mean, look, we have the pre-firing behavior and the post-firing behavior, and I think they both, in a different way, have damaged the FBI. I think it all started in that July 2016 press conference, an almost unprecedented move by an FBI director. I won't say completely unprecedented, but almost unprecedented move. Standing up there in that press conference, he dragged the FBI into the middle of a huge partisan fight that it didn't need to be in. By his statements and his comments and certain behavior after that as well. Now, I was the first one to defend him in the way he was fired. I didn't think it was right the way the White House let him go. That being said, his post-firing behavior has done even more damage to the FBI. And even this week, with his closed-door testimony, we're hearing reporting that he said to the senators, he said to the committee that he knew that the White House was in disarray, and basically said he was going to exploit that new administration coming in and manipulate the situation and send agents over there to interview General Flynn amidst that chaos, knowing that was a better chance of entrapping somebody or getting somebody caught in a lie, which apparently he may have done. And so for an FBI director to stand up there and say, I wanted to take advantage of a new administration coming in, and every administration is chaotic in the beginning. They've got to get their feet under them. You know, that's not unusual or a bad thing. It's part of a transition of power. But to say that you're going to then manipulate and exploit that is unconscionable.
Agreed. But it gets worse, because it's not just that, right? In that same closed-door testimony, we have the transcripts, and I read every single line. He actually went so far as to say, when he was asked, Bobby, about whether or not it mattered, that who paid for that dossier, he said, who cares? He didn't care whether it was Republicans. That's the direct quote there. Who cares? It was Republicans. He went on to say it doesn't matter if it's Democrats, Republicans. It was Democrats, by the way. The law firm Perkins Coie was hired by the DNC and by people related to Hillary Clinton's campaign. And they paid $160,000 to Christopher Steele. They hired Fusion GPS, all to get this dirt on our now president. And James Comey, as head of the FBI, doesn't care where this information came from, who was motivated to dig it up, or who paid for it?
Well, worse than that, he admits that some of it wasn't verified before it was submitted to a FISA judge to obtain a warrant. He admits that himself, that some of that was not verified. On here,
because it's just so unbelievable, and I think it's going to go down in history as one of those awful moments in our representative democracy that we live in. I mean, you mentioned that, but it was also the fact that he never felt the judge needed to know who paid for it. So he never verified it, and he never thought it was pertinent that the judge know. And then he's out there getting a FISA warrant.
Well, I mean, look, we've seen that James Comey thinks he's the smartest guy in the room at every turn, and we've seen him claim this mantle of self-righteousness. So he may have thought that he knew better than a FISA judge what the FISA judge needed to know. Now, I've stood before federal judges to get Title III wiretap affidavits approved, and to get the approval and the review to get a Title III, and there's a bar is high, and I never, ever submitted an affidavit that wasn't fully vetted, and every piece of information that I put in my Title III, now the Title III is somewhat different, but it's the same premise, and I never put an application before a judge that wasn't fully vetted. Every piece of information I put before that federal judge was verified by me and others that worked with me. Never would I ever put stuff that in an affidavit that was not verified.
You see, sir, you respected the FBI. James Comey didn't.
I spent almost 30 years in the FBI. James Comey spent about 30 months. And for him to go around now as the spokesperson for how the FBI acts and should or shouldn't act is beyond me. Every agent, most agents that I talk with these days, the experienced agents, both still on the job and retired like me, know that he dragged us into this, and by his behavior now, keeps the FBI in the middle of this partisan fight, which he put us there in the first place, and we shouldn't be.
Why do you think he does it, Bobby? What motivates him here? Does he want to be president of the United States?
No, now I think he got his feelings hurt, and he's stomping around like a disciplined child, and he's got this axe to grind against this administration, and he's going to take it out in any way he can. And it goes beyond, it's gone beyond Trump, right? He's made statements that no voters should vote for any Republican. I mean, he is such a partisan hack at this point. I don't know how anybody takes him seriously anymore.
Well put.
Now,
I know, again, he's got the holier than thou thing going on. I want to show our viewers part of that holier than thou thing, where somehow he just criticizes networks like this. Let's roll the tape.
The FBI's reputation has taken a big hit because the President of the United States, with his acolytes, has lied about it constantly. And in the face of those lies, a whole lot of good people who watch your network believe that nonsense. That's a tragedy.
So again, talking his own book here, it's the president's fault, not James Comey's.
Well, look, I'd be the first to admit that some of the things the president said I didn't agree with, and I think certain things that President Trump has said have hurt the FBI. But the genesis of this has been James Comey's behavior as director, and it's been exacerbated greatly by his behavior since he left the Justice Department, since he left the FBI, and he continues with every appearance, every public appearance I've seen him, every even closed-door appearance behind to committees of Congress. It hurts the FBI. His continued public pronouncements continue to hurt the men and women of the FBI.
Well, you know, they said he was a showboat. Let's not forget, this is the same guy that when the president was saying, my gosh, you know, the FBI's leaking, turns out he himself was leaking. He actually had, you know, kept diligent notes apparently and delivered them all to his buddy who's a law professor up at Columbia University, who then leaks it to the New York Times. I mean, it's mind-boggling. You said something very important. I think it's very true. You were there at the FBI 30 years. He was there maybe 30 months. He does not understand or respect the integrity of the FBI, and inherently that is the problem. Bobby, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you.